Vladimir Putin might rule Russia with an iron fist, but wait until you hear the insane rules he has for his wife. From complete media blackouts to constant surveillance that would make Big Brother jealous, these restrictions are absolutely mind-blowing. Whether it's his ex-wife Lyudmila or his rumored current partner Alina Kabaeva, Putin's obsession with control reaches deep into his personal life. And trust me, the most terrifying rule we discovered will leave you completely speechless. Let's dive into the 20 most shocking rules Putin has for his wife. Let's kick things off with rule number 20, mandatory public absence. And trust me, this one's wild. Did you know that Putin's wife basically has to be a ghost in public? When Putin first became president, his then-wife Lyudmila barely showed up to any events. We're talking maybe 2 or 3 appearances a year, max. And don't even get me started on his rumored current wife, Alina Kabaeva. Despite being an Olympic champion and one of Russia's most famous athletes, she practically vanished from the spotlight after being linked to Putin. No more magazine covers, no TV appearances, nothing. It's like she entered some kind of witness protection program, except the person protecting her is Putin himself. Think about it. When was the last time you saw Putin with any woman at a public event? Even during major international meetings where other world leaders bring their spouses, Putin rolls up solo. His wife isn't allowed to be the first lady in any traditional sense. She's literally banned from taking on public roles or attending state functions unless Putin specifically approves it. What do you guys think about living like this? Imagine being famous one day and having to disappear the next. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. But if you think disappearing from public view is tough, wait until you hear about rule number 19. Rule number 19, controlled media presence. Okay, this one's absolutely bonkers. When Putin's first wife Lyudmila did rarely appear in public, every single photo had to be approved by the Kremlin's press office. We're not talking about a simple Instagram filter here. These photos went through more screening than airport security. And get this, there was actually a special team whose only job was to make sure she looked appropriately modest in every single shot. No glamour shots allowed. But here's where it gets even crazier. With Alina Kabaeva, the rules are even stricter. Remember when she was on the cover of Russian Vogue in 2011? Well, suddenly all those magazines mysteriously disappeared from newsstands overnight. Talk about extreme photo editing, right? These days, any photo of her has to go through not 1, not 2, but 3 levels of approval before it can see the light of day. Even Russian state media needs special permission to mention her name. Would you be able to handle having every single photo of you scrutinized like this? Let us know in the comments. But hold on to your hats, because rule number 18 is even more intense. Financial independence restrictions. Think your bank account is your business? Well, not if you're Putin's wife. Sources close to the Kremlin revealed that neither Lyudmila nor Alina has ever had complete control over their own money. Every single purchase, every transaction, every ruble has to be documented and approved. Here's the kicker. Even though Alina Kabaeva reportedly sits on the board of several major Russian companies, she can't actually access most of her wealth independently. Everything goes through a complex network of trustees and proxy accounts. It's like having the world's strictest allowance system. And those fancy credit cards? They come with a twist. Every single purchase gets reported directly to Putin's personal security team. But if you think having your spending monitored is rough, just wait until you hear about the travel restrictions in rule number 17. Rule number 17, travel restrictions. All right, folks, if you thought your parents were strict about curfew, this will blow your mind. Putin's rules about travel make a maximum security prison look like a holiday resort. Let me paint you a picture. Even when Putin's first wife Lyudmila needed to visit a doctor in Germany, she needed permission from not just Putin himself, but from 3 different security agencies. Talk about a complicated hall pass system. And for Alina Kabaeva, the travel rules are even more intense. Despite being an international sports figure who used to jet set around the world for competitions, she now can't even cross the street without a full security detail. According to former Kremlin insiders, she's only allowed to travel to a pre-approved list of locations, and every single trip needs to be planned months in advance. We're talking about detailed itineraries, background checks on everyone she might encounter, and even weather forecasts. Seriously, they check the weather. But here's the real kicker. When she does travel, she can't use regular airports or normal flights. Instead, she has to use special private terminals and Putin's personal fleet of aircraft. And get this, the flight plans are classified as state secrets. That's right, her vacation plans are literally treated like nuclear launch codes. What about rule number 16? Communication monitoring. This one's straight out of a spy movie. Remember how your parents used to pick up the landline to check if you were really talking to your study group? Well, Putin takes this to a whole new level. Every single phone call, every text message, every email, absolutely everything gets monitored. And we're not talking about some basic screening here. According to leaked intelligence reports, there's an entire department within Russia's FSB security service dedicated to monitoring communications of Putin's family members. They use technology so advanced it would make James Bond jealous. The system can track not just what's being said, but where the call is coming from, who else is nearby, and even the tone of voice being used. And social media? Forget about it. While most of us worry about our parents finding our Facebook profiles, Putin's wives have to deal with complete digital surveillance. Any attempt to communicate online gets flagged faster than a spam email. Former Kremlin staff have revealed that even trying to send a simple birthday message to a friend requires going through multiple security clearances. Would you be able to handle living in this kind of digital prison? Let us know what you think in the comments below. But if you think these rules are strict, just wait until you hear what comes next. Rule number 15. Wardrobe control. Listen up, because this is where things get really weird. You think picking out your outfit is stressful? Imagine having your clothes chosen by a team of government officials. For Putin's partners, getting dressed isn't just about fashion, it's basically a national security operation. When Lyudmila was still First Lady, she had to follow a 47-page manual about what she could and couldn't wear. That's right, a manual thicker than your average restaurant menu. Every single outfit had to be approved weeks in advance. And here's the crazy part. They couldn't cost more than Putin's suits because he always had to appear more powerful. Russian fashion designers have revealed that she was only allowed to wear Russian-made clothing, and every piece had to be checked for hidden cameras or recording devices. Now, with Alina Kabaeva, the rules have gotten even more intense. As a former Olympic gymnast known for her glamorous style, she's had to completely transform her wardrobe. Sources close to the Kremlin say she can only wear specific colors that have been psychologically tested to appear appropriate on camera. And get this, she can't wear anything that might outshine Putin at events. Talk about a controlling dress code. Moving on to rule number 14, no personal social media. Now this might sound obvious, but trust me, it goes way deeper than you'd think. While most of us stress about what to post on Instagram, Putin's wives aren't even allowed to have a private Facebook account to stay in touch with friends. Former security staff have revealed that they use special phones that can't even download social media apps. Remember when Alina was a famous athlete with millions of followers? Well, after being linked to Putin, not only did her social media disappear, but anyone who posted old photos with her got mysterious visits from government officials asking them to delete the pictures. It's like she's being digitally erased. Even her old gymnastics teammates had to sign agreements never to share personal photos or stories about her online. And it's not just about posting, they can't even browse social media. Imagine not being able to check what your friends are up to, or watch funny cat videos. According to Kremlin insiders, any attempt to access social media sites from their devices triggers immediate security alerts. They've basically been forced to live like it's 1985. Think that's intense? Well, stick around because rule number 13 is going to make your jaw drop. Rule number 13, restricted family contact. This one might be the most heartbreaking yet. Imagine not being able to just pick up the phone and call your mom whenever you want. For Putin's wives, family relationships are more controlled than a chess game. When Lyudmila was still in the picture, her own parents had to go through security clearance just to visit their daughter for holidays. According to former Kremlin staff members, every family gathering had to be scheduled months in advance, with background checks run on every single relative. Even then, conversations were monitored by security personnel. Think about having armed guards standing around your Thanksgiving dinner, and if any family member said anything politically sensitive, they'd be instantly blacklisted from future visits. For Alina Kabaeva, it's even more extreme. Sources say her family had to move to a specially monitored compound where their every movement is tracked. Her father, a former soccer coach, suddenly retired from public life altogether. Her mother, who used to love giving interviews about her daughter's gymnastics career, hasn't been heard from in years. It's like her entire family had to disappear into a black hole of security protocols. Now, let's talk about rule number 12, public event protocols. If you thought your job had strict rules, wait until you hear this. When Putin's wives do make those rare public appearances, they have to follow a rulebook thicker than a Russian novel. Former security personnel have revealed that every single movement is choreographed, like a ballet performance. They can't shake hands with anyone who hasn't been pre-approved. They can't accept gifts, not even a simple flower bouquet, without it being thoroughly inspected. And here's the wildest part. They have to practice their walking routes beforehand. That's right. They literally have to rehearse walking into a room. Every step, every smile, every handshake is planned down to the second. And the seating arrangements? They're treated like military operations. Alina can never sit directly next to Putin at public events. There always has to be at least 2 people between them. She can't be photographed looking directly at him, and she's not allowed to speak to any foreign officials without a pre-approved script. Even their exit routes from buildings have to be different to maintain the illusion of distance. Think your work meetings are stressful? Imagine having to memorize a 50-page protocol just to attend a dinner party. Stay tuned, because rule number 11 is about to show you how deep this rabbit hole goes. Rule number 11, property ownership limitations. Okay, this is going to sound totally insane, but Putin's wives aren't actually allowed to own anything significant in their own names. I know what you're thinking. How is that even possible in the 21st century? Well, let me break it down for you. When Lyudmila was First Lady, she couldn't even keep her old apartment from before her marriage. Everything had to be transferred into complex trust funds, controlled by state-approved trustees. According to leaked documents, she needed written permission just to redecorate a room in her own house. And we're talking about someone who was technically the First Lady of Russia. For Alina Kabaeva, it's even more complicated. Despite reports that she lives in a massive Swiss chalet worth millions, she technically doesn't own any property at all. Former financial advisors have revealed that everything, from her cars to her jewelry, is officially owned by a network of shell companies. She's literally living in a golden cage where nothing actually belongs to her. Even her gym equipment, and remember she's an Olympic champion, has to be registered as state property. Moving to rule number 10, personal staff restrictions. Think hiring a babysitter is complicated? Well, you haven't seen anything yet. The process for appointing staff to Putin's wives makes CIA recruitment look like a job interview at McDonald's. Every single person, from maids to personal trainers, has to go through extensive background checks going back 3 generations. Yes, they actually check what your great-grandmother was doing during World War II. But here's where it gets really wild. The staff can't have any social media presence, can't have relatives living abroad, and need to sign lifetime confidentiality agreements that extend to their entire family. Former Kremlin insiders say that even the gardeners have to pass monthly polygraph tests. And if that's not paranoid enough, all staff members have to rotate every few months to prevent them from becoming too close to their employer. Want to hear something even crazier? The staff aren't allowed to use their real names around Putin's wives. They're given code names that change every few weeks, and they're forbidden from telling anyone, even their own families, who they work for. Imagine not being able to tell your spouse what you do for a living. But hold on to your seats, because rule number 9 is about to show you how deep the control really goes. Rule number 9, medical care protocol. Get ready, because this one's absolutely mind-blowing. When it comes to healthcare, Putin's wives don't just pop into the local clinic when they're feeling under the weather. Instead, they're stuck in what might be the world's most restrictive medical system. Former Kremlin medical staff have revealed that both Lyudmila and Alina can only be treated by doctors personally vetted by Putin himself. We're talking about physicians who've gone through more background checks than astronauts. And here's the really crazy part. Before any medical procedure, even something as simple as a dental cleaning, 3 different doctors have to sign off on it. The paperwork for a simple checkup looks like a novel. But wait, it gets even more bizarre. Every medical record is considered a state secret, coded with special numbers instead of names. The doctors aren't even allowed to know their patient's real identity. And if they need medication, each pill is tracked like it's nuclear material, with serial numbers and security protocols that would make a pharmacist's head spin. Even vitamins need special approval. Now, let's dive into rule number 8, religious practice control. You might think that personal faith would be off limits for control, right? Wrong. Putin's obsession with security extends all the way into the chapel. When Lyudmila wanted to attend Orthodox church services, she couldn't just show up and pray like everyone else. The entire church had to be cleared, swept for devices, and filled with security agents disguised as worshippers. For Alina, the restrictions are even tighter. Sources close to the Kremlin say she can only attend private religious services in specially designated rooms that have been thoroughly swept for bugs and cameras. The priests who conduct these services have to be specially approved and are changed regularly to prevent any personal relationships from forming. Even the religious texts she's allowed to read have to go through security screening. And get this, during major religious holidays when most Russians are celebrating with their families, Putin's wives have to follow a strict schedule of when and how they can participate in ceremonies. They can't even light a candle without it being part of some elaborate security protocol. Former security staff say that even the holy water used in ceremonies has to come from approved sources and is tested in laboratories. Talk about taking security to a whole new level. But if you think controlling someone's spiritual life is extreme, just wait until you hear about rule number 7. Rule number 7. Children's public life restrictions. If you thought being Putin's wife was tough, wait until you hear what happens to the kids. This might be one of the most shocking rules yet, because it basically turns children into state secrets. According to Kremlin insiders, Putin is so obsessed with privacy that his children might as well be living in an invisible bubble. When Lyudmila's daughters, Maria and Katerina, were growing up, they had to use fake names at school. Imagine not even being able to use your real name with your classmates. Their teachers didn't know who they really were, and their classmates' parents had to sign secret documents without knowing why. One former school employee revealed that the girls couldn't even appear in class photos. They had to be digitally added later. But here's where it gets really intense with Alina. There are rumors that she has children with Putin, but trying to confirm this is like trying to find a needle in the Russian wilderness. Sources say any medical records about potential children are stored in a special facility with more security than most bank vaults. Hospital staff who might have been involved in any births had to sign lifetime silence agreements. We're talking about documents that even extend to their grandchildren. Now, brace yourself for rule number 6, business involvement prohibition. Remember how in normal relationships, couples often talk about their work over dinner? Well, in Putin's world, that conversation could land you in serious trouble. Both wives have been completely banned from any real business involvement, even though they're highly educated women. Lyudmila, who had a successful career as a linguist, had to give up everything professional when she married Putin. But Alina's case is even more dramatic. Before being linked to Putin, she was on the board of several major media companies and had her own sports marketing firm. According to business records, every single one of these ventures mysteriously reorganized overnight. Her name vanished from company documents faster than ice cream melts in summer. And here's the real kicker. They can't even invest their own money. Former financial advisors have leaked that any business decision, even something as simple as buying shares in a company, has to go through a complex approval process. It's like having to ask permission to buy a candy bar. Except the candy bar is $1 million investment, and the person saying no controls one of the world's largest countries. But hold on to your seats, because rule number 5 is about to make these restrictions look like child's play. Rule number 5. Political expression ban. This one's going to make your head spin. In a country where Putin controls everything from TV channels to newspaper headlines, you might think his wife would at least be able to express her own political opinions at home. But according to former Kremlin staffers, that couldn't be further from the truth. When Lyudmila was First Lady, she once made a casual comment about liking a Western-style democracy during a private dinner. Within hours, an entire team of political advisors swooped in for what they called a reorientation session. She never mentioned politics again in public or private. Former household staff revealed that even discussing local council elections was strictly forbidden. For Alina, it's like walking through a political minefield. Despite her background in sports administration, where she regularly dealt with international committees, she now can't even comment on Olympic politics. Sources close to the Kremlin say she once suggested a change to youth sports funding and found herself vacationing in a remote location for 3 months. Every public statement she makes has to be written, reviewed, and approved by a team of 15 different political advisors. Now, let's talk about rule number 4, personal security protocol. Remember when you thought your parents were overprotective? Well, this security system would make the Pentagon look like a playground. Putin's wives live under a security blanket so thick it would make James Bond give up and go home. Every morning starts with a security briefing, not about world events, but about what they're allowed to do that day. Their food isn't just tested for poison. It goes through 3 different laboratories before reaching their plate. Former security personnel revealed that even their toothpaste is replaced daily and comes from a special secure facility. Each bathroom break requires a minimum of 4 security personnel stationed at specific points. And yes, that's as awkward as it sounds. But here's the truly insane part. They have to wear special tracking devices disguised as jewelry. These aren't your typical Apple Watches. We're talking about high-tech equipment that monitors everything from their location to their heart rate. If Alina's heartbeat goes above a certain level, an entire security team goes into high alert. One former guard mentioned that they once launched a full security response because she got excited watching a soccer match. Just when you thought it couldn't get any more intense, wait until you hear about rule number 3. Let's develop rules #3 and #2 maintaining our dramatic narrative style. Rule number 3, International Relations Protocol. This is where things get seriously diplomatic. Think meeting your in-laws is stressful? Try navigating international politics as Putin's wife. According to former diplomats, there's a whole secret playbook just for handling international appearances. When Lyudmila was still around, she couldn't even talk to other world leaders' spouses without a pre-approved script. Every conversation, even a simple, "Hello, how are you?" had to be practiced with language coaches beforehand. One former aide revealed that during a G8 summit, she had to memorize 76 different conversation scenarios just for a 2-hour dinner. And if another leader's wife tried to start an unscripted conversation, a team of handlers would swoop in faster than you can say, "diplomatic incident." For Alina, it's like living in a diplomatic pressure cooker. She's completely banned from attending international events where Western leaders might be present. Sources say there's actually a diplomatic distance calculator that determines how many rooms away she needs to stay from any foreign diplomat. And those fancy Olympic committee meetings she used to attend? All cancelled faster than a flight during a snowstorm. Moving on to rule number 2, personal life documentation. If you thought your Instagram updates were detailed, wait until you hear this. Putin's wives have to live with a level of documentation that makes tax season look like a walk in the park. Every single day has to be logged, documented, and archived with military precision. We're talking about everything. What they eat, who they talk to, what they wear, even how long they sleep. Former staff members revealed there's a special team whose only job is to maintain these records. They even document their dreams if they happen to mention them at breakfast. But here's the really crazy part. They have to write daily reports about their own activities. Imagine having to explain why you spent an extra 5 minutes in the shower, or why you chose to wear blue instead of red. These reports go through multiple security checks and are stored in a special facility that makes Fort Knox look like a garden shed. One former security officer mentioned that they once launched a full investigation because Alina's daily report was submitted 3 minutes late. And just when you thought we'd reached peak control, wait until you hear rule number 1. It's so shocking, it makes everything else we've talked about look like basic house rules. Rule number 1. Complete identity subordination. This is it. The most terrifying rule of all, and trust me, it's more chilling than a Siberian winter. This rule basically means that Putin's wife has to completely erase who she was and become who he wants her to be. According to high-level Kremlin sources, this goes way beyond just changing a last name after marriage. We're talking about a complete identity overhaul that would make witness protection look like a nickname change. When Lyudmila was First Lady, she had to abandon her entire personal history. Her childhood photos were collected and sealed in government vaults. Her old friends were forced to sign documents saying they never knew her, and even her university records were classified as state secrets. For Alina, the identity erasure is even more extreme. Despite being one of Russia's most famous athletes, with Olympic medals and world records, she's had to pretend like that life never existed. Former Kremlin staff revealed that she's not even allowed to keep her medals or watch videos of her own performances. Her entire identity has been reconstructed to fit Putin's ideal image. She can't reference her past achievements, can't maintain old friendships, and can't even acknowledge her former career. It's like being forced to play a role in a play, except the play never ends, and forgetting your lines could have serious consequences. And there you have it, folks. The 20 most terrifying rules Putin has for his wife. From being watched in the bathroom to having your entire identity erased, it's like living in the world's strictest prison, except with fancier furniture. Can you imagine living under these kinds of restrictions, where every breath you take is monitored, every move is calculated, and every aspect of your life is controlled by someone else? Think about it. Even prisoners get more personal freedom than this. What do you think is the most shocking rule? Is it the constant surveillance, the identity erasure, or maybe the fact that they can't even choose their own toothpaste? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this video interesting, don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring that notification bell to stay updated with more incredible stories like this one. Trust me, you won't want to miss what we have coming up next. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.